What's going on, guys? It is Cynnnical, and today for you guys I'm bringing you a small little piece of interesting Kingdom Hearts 3 news and information. Recently, I've kind of been going back through the interviews that were spewed out around the time of E3. Of course, around that time we know that there were interviews flowing left, right, and center, and within these interviews there was a abundance of different information that came out of them. You know, a trailer is one thing, but interviews can really tell and explain a lot of different sort of information pieces, I suppose you could say, about different games. So yeah, recently I've been going back through them, just seeing if I can find any other little interesting tidbits to discuss upon and bring to you guys in case you didn't actually go through the different interview news segments. So this piece of information is actually talking about Keyblade Transformations and a possible lore or story aspect behind them, which I find extremely interesting. As of right now, we know that Keyblade Transformations are going to be some sort of new ability that you can activate in Kingdom Hearts, but apparently there is going to be some sort of lore or story behind Keyblade Transformations and exactly how Sora learns to use them. Now, this information came out of an interview between Famitsu and Tetsuya Nomura, which is very interesting. This is what was stated. Also, the different variations of the Keyblade are very eye-catching in battle. Obtaining the true power of a master, is this the reason for these sudden amazing transformations? So right here, basically Famitsu are asking, you know, is it because Sora is now a master that he can use these transformations? And keep in mind, as of right now, in terms of the story progression of Kingdom Hearts, Sora isn't actually a Keyblade master, so just keep that in mind. Tetsuya Nomura replied, there will be a neat story that will explain about it. It is possible to do it in the beginning of the game. You can transform the Keyblade if conditions are met, and there are several transformation stages. When Sora's Keyblade has changed into a particular form, you'll be able to use its form-specific abilities. So, as of right now, it's kind of unknown whether you actually have to be a Keyblade master or not to use Keyblade Transformations. Now, the reason I say this is mainly because of the fact that we know that Ventus was able to transform his Keyblade into a Keyblade glider in Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep. And we definitely know that Ventus wasn't a Keyblade master. That's very, very clear. So that aspect of Keyblade Transformations sort of confuses me. I mean, do you actually need to be a Keyblade master to use the transformations? And if so, how are they exactly meant to explain, you know, sort of Ventus's situation, the fact that he was able to transform into a glider? I mean, maybe Square Enix might not actually see the transformation of the Keyblade to a glider, an actual Keyblade transformation itself. Not really too sure, but it is quite interesting. However, what we're going to be looking at today is the fact that Tetsuya Nomura said that there will be a neat story that will explain about it. So, it's sort of hard to see, you know, exactly what he's talking about. Is he talking about, you know, explaining the story about Keyblade Transformations as a whole or as an actual thing? Or is he actually talking about how Sora is able to use these transformations? I believe it's sort of pointing more towards how Sora is able to use them, but I definitely would like to see a little bit of sort of story information about Keyblade Transformations themselves. Perhaps many Keyblade wielders back in the time of the Keyblade War were able to use their Keyblade to obviously kind of transform them into multiple different kind of other weapons like swords, bow and arrows, and stuff like that. But yeah, so I think this more so points towards the fact of explaining the story behind how Sora was able to basically transform his Keyblade into these many different transformations. Another thing I thought I'd mention is if we look back at the story and the overall overview of Kingdom Hearts, in terms of what character that has actually used Keyblade Transformations, and I'm talking about transformations in terms of weapon transformations, you know, these transformations being able to actually inflict damage, and not talking about Keyblade gliders, I suppose that character would have to be Terra. Of course, in Birth by Sleep, there is actually an ability that you can activate which turns your Keyblade into a cannon. I believe it's called the Giga Cannon. You can use that to like annihilate enemies. And then, of course, obviously in Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix with the Lingering Will boss fight, which is also essentially Terra, because the Lingering Will is basically Terra's mind controlling, you know, the armor of Terra's Keyblade armor. It's basically what's left of Terra. Of course, we know that the Lingering Will utilizes many different Keyblade transformations in the Lingering Will fight. You know, he turns it into a bow, into a cannon. So, it kind of makes me wonder, perhaps, maybe, you know, do you think that Terra, or more so the Lingering Will itself, might actually have some sort of job or some sort of connection between Sora learning how to use Keyblade Transformations? I mean, we know that the Lingering Will isn't just an extra little boss fight in Final Mix. He is actually part of the lore of the game, and I believe that the Lingering Will actually return in Kingdom Hearts 3 towards somehow resurrecting Terra, or sort of, you know, I suppose you could say pulling him out of his possession from Xehanort. But that's another little interesting thing I thought I would probably mention. You know, it kind of makes you wonder, maybe the Lingering Will might teach Sora how to use these transformations. What I do find interesting as well is Nomura said that it is possible to do Keyblade Transformations and use them at the beginning of the game, and I think that's very, very important. It gives us sort of an insight towards when exactly Sora will learn to use them. I mean, he hasn't stated here that, you know, you'll play perhaps, I don't know, one world, and then you'll get to a certain point in the game, and then you'll learn, you know, Keyblade Transformations. We know that in Kingdom Hearts 2, basically, Sora eventually started to go through Twilight Town, and he made his way to the Mysterious Tower, and at that point in the game, when he was at the Mysterious Tower, that's when he was able to obviously activate and learn about drive forms. But what Tetsuya Nomura is saying here is right at the beginning of the game, you can actually use these transformations, as if he's already learned how to use these transformations basically right at the start of Kingdom Hearts 3, which makes me believe, is there something else that's kind of missing as of right now between Dream Drop Distance and Kingdom Hearts 3? Is there something else between those two games? As of right now, it's pretty unknown in terms of how much time has passed between the two things, and perhaps even Kingdom Hearts 2.9 might actually add something a little bit extra. If 2.9 is real, obviously, perhaps it might add something, you know, a little bit extra, explaining or pushing more time forward from the events of Dream Drop Distance towards Kingdom Hearts 3. But anyway, guys, that's a little bit of information right there. It's possible to use Keyblade Transformations right at the start of the game, which I think is actually really, really cool. You're going to get straight into the swing of combat and using these transformations, which I think is really cool. We already know that there is several different transformation stages. I believe I covered that quite a while ago, but yes, just to sort of refresh your brain, there's going to be multiple different stages of these different Keyblade transformations and stuff like that. Tetsuya Nomura also said that apparently these transformations, the Keyblade transformations, are somewhat kind of similar to drive forms as well, so that's another thing to add. But what I am looking forward to the most is the story behind the transformations and exactly how Sora learns to use them. Anyway, guys, hopefully you've enjoyed this news and information. What do you think about this situation? Leave your comments and thoughts in the comment section below. And until next time, guys, I'll catch you later. Peace.